Have you ever felt tired before the real journey even began? Not because life stopped you, but because the distance ahead looked too heavy to survive. Most people do not break because they are weak. They break because they keep staring at how far they still have left to go. But beneath a merciless sun, a turtle carried a shell heavier than her own body, across a road that seemed endless. While other creatures laughed, doubted her, and waited for her to quit, she followed one quiet rule that changed the entire journey. And before this story ends, you may discover why some people keep moving through impossible seasons, while others stop long before they ever reach home. Every morning, before the sun fully rose above the dry hills, the turtle began walking. The road beneath her feet was rough and cracked. Dust clung to her shell. Heat sat heavily on her back long before the middle of the day arrived. And still, she walked. Slowly, quietly, without complaint. The shell she carried was not small. Other creatures often wondered how she moved at all with that kind of weight pressing down on her every single day. Birds flew above her and laughed at her pace. "By the time you arrive, the world will already move on," one of them said. Rabbits rushed past her in groups, kicking dust into the air as they ran ahead. "You never finish at that speed," another shouted without even slowing down. The turtle never answered them. She simply lowered her head and kept moving. One step, then another. Sometimes people think strength must be loud for it to matter. But some of the strongest battles in life happen quietly, where nobody claps, nobody notices, and nobody understands how heavy the weight truly feels. The turtle understood that kind of loneliness. Every day looked almost the same. Endless road, burning sun, the sound of other creatures moving faster than her. Sometimes she passed animals resting beneath trees, while she continued walking alone beneath the heat. And sometimes, if the road became too silent, even her own thoughts began turning against her. Maybe they are right. Maybe this journey is too far. Maybe I am too slow. But each time those thoughts appeared, she pushed them down with another small step forward, because stopping felt even heavier than moving. Many people know that feeling. There are seasons in life where progress feels invisible. You wake up tired. You move slowly. You wonder if your effort means anything at all. And the hardest part is not always the pain. Sometimes the hardest part is watching everyone else move faster, while you are still carrying your own weight in silence. The turtle felt that silence every day, but she kept walking anyway. As the days passed, the road only became harder. The dry ground slowly changed into sharp stones that pressed painfully beneath the turtle's feet. The air grew hotter. The distance ahead still looked endless, and no matter how far she walked, the horizon never seemed to come closer. That was the part that exhausted her the most. Not the shell, not the heat. The feeling that no matter how much effort she gave, the journey still looked impossible. One afternoon, she stopped beside a small patch of shade near the road. Her breathing was heavy. Dust covered her legs. For the first time in many days, she slowly lifted her head and looked far ahead. The road stretched beyond the hills, beyond the dry trees, beyond what her eyes could even fully see. And in that moment, something inside her became weak. How much farther? How long will this take? Will I ever reach the end? A group of rabbits rushed past again, faster than before, laughing loudly. "You're still here," one of them said. "We left you behind days ago." Another rabbit looked at the heavy shell on her back and shook his head. "You carry too much. That's your problem." The rabbits disappeared into the distance within seconds. The turtle lowered her eyes again, but their words stayed behind. Sometimes people become tired not because they are failing, but because they keep measuring their progress against people moving at a completely different pace. That kind of comparison can quietly destroy a person from the inside. The turtle continued walking, but her steps felt heavier now. Every sound around her began turning into pressure. Birds above her talked about places they had already reached. Foxes resting near the roadside spoke about easier paths. Even smaller animals stared at her with pity. Nobody understood why she kept going. And slowly, the turtle stopped understanding it too. The next morning, the sun felt hotter than ever. She walked for hours without seeing anything new. Just more road, more heat, more silence. Then she noticed something ahead. A young donkey sat near a broken cart beside the road. Bags and supplies were scattered around him. His shoulders looked tired. His eyes looked empty. When the turtle finally reached him, the donkey gave a bitter laugh. "I quit," he said softly. The turtle stopped. "The road is too long," the donkey continued. "At first I thought hard work would be enough, but every time I looked ahead, I realized how far behind I still was." The turtle stayed quiet. The donkey looked at her shell. "How are you still moving with that thing on your back?" For a moment, the turtle almost answered honestly. "I don't know anymore." But instead, she simply said, "One step." The donkey frowned. That's not enough. Maybe he was right. As the turtle continued walking, his words followed her like a shadow. That's not enough. And honestly, many people feel that way in their own lives. You work, you try, you stay disciplined. But because success has not arrived yet, your effort starts feeling small, useless even. You begin staring at the future so often that today starts feeling unbearable. The turtle felt trapped inside those thoughts. Later that evening, dark clouds slowly gathered above the road. Wind pushed dust through the air. The world around her became cold and gray. The storm arrived quickly. Rain crashed against her shell. Mud pulled against her feet. The road became slippery and dangerous. Several creatures ran for shelter beneath rocks and trees. The turtle tried to keep moving, but the weight on her back suddenly felt unbearable. She slipped once, then again. Finally, she stopped completely. The storm roared around her while she stood there breathing heavily beneath the rain. And for the first time since the journey began, she looked up again. Far ahead, the road disappeared into darkness. No end in sight, no proof that her suffering meant anything. Just distance, just more struggle. Something inside her broke. She slowly pulled herself beneath a crooked tree and stayed there through the night. Cold, silent, tired beyond words. And sometimes life reaches people that way too. Not with one big failure, but with small exhaustion repeated so many times that the heart quietly loses strength. The next morning, the storm was gone. The world felt strangely quiet. The turtle stepped back onto the road, but her mind felt heavier than her shell now. Every few minutes, she looked ahead again. Still far, still endless. Each time she measured the distance, her body weakened a little more. One step felt like 10. 1 hour felt like days. And then she noticed something strange. The moments she suffered most were not when she was walking. They were when she stopped to stare at the whole journey at once. That realization stayed in her mind as she continued moving slowly through the heat. By sunset, she no longer looked at the hills ahead. She looked only at the ground directly in front of her feet. One step, then another. Nothing else. No future. No distance. No pressure. Just the next step. And little by little, the weight began to feel lighter. The next few days felt different. The road was still long. The sun was still cruel. The shell still pressed heavily against the turtle's back. But something inside her had changed. She no longer woke up thinking about the full journey. She no longer searched the horizon for proof that she was getting closer. And she stopped asking herself questions that only made her heart heavier. How much farther? How much longer? Will this ever end? Instead, she gave all her attention to the ground beneath her feet. One step, then another. That was all. And strangely, peace slowly returned to her mind. Not because life became easier, but because she stopped carrying tomorrow's weight while still trying to survive today. A few birds still mocked her from above. "You're still moving that slowly?" one of them laughed. The turtle did not answer. This time, their voices no longer entered her heart, because people who spend their lives watching others rarely understand the strength it takes to quietly continue your own journey. The turtle understood something now that many creatures around her never would. Discipline is not always loud. Sometimes discipline is simply waking up tired and continuing anyway. Sometimes it is choosing the next small step instead of frightening yourself with the entire mountain ahead. As the days passed, the road slowly began to change. The dry ground became softer. Small patches of grass appeared beside the path. The air felt cooler in the evenings. And one morning, after another long stretch of silent walking, the turtle noticed something far ahead. Home. Not because she rushed, not because she became faster than everyone else,